evening. This is the regular hybrid meeting for the City of Southfield City Council being held Monday, May 23rd, 2022 at 6 p.m. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Banks.
Present.
Brightwell. Here. Cruz. Frazier. Here. Hoskins.
Here.
Mandelbaum. Present. Taylor.
Here.
Madam President, you do have a quorum. Excuse Councilman Cruz. He will be late this evening.
Thank you. Would we all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we have communications. The Southfield City Council has established the following rules of procedure for all speakers. No speaker may make personal or impertinent attacks upon any officer, employee, or city council member, or other elected official that is unrelated to the manner in which the officer, employee, or city council member, or other elected officials performs his or her duties. No person shall use abusive or threatening language toward any individual when addressing the city council. Any person who violates this section shall be directed by the presiding officer to be orderly and silent. If a person addressing the council refuses to become silent when so directed, such person may be deemed by the presiding officer to have committed a breach of the peace by disrupting and impeding the orderly conduct of the public meeting of the City Council, and may be ordered by the presiding officer to leave the meeting. If the person refuses to leave as directed, the presiding officer may direct any law enforcement officer who is present to escort the violator from the meeting. Thank you for your attention. Our first speaker is Greg Keeler.
Greg Keeler, Southfield resident. Because the day is so crowded up here, and there is no place in front of this building for handicaps to park. The handicap park outside is blocked off, so you would have 2 or 3 blocks to walk to get here. The act was passed in 1990. I don't understand how come, after I had to fuss about the fact that Latina Benson had a hard time up here to get this, that y'all didn't put parking spots out there in front. That would be an easy, simple fix. You have 3 people that you can visibly see that you know are handicapped to come to this meeting, and you have not moved on it. This law was passed some 32 years ago. But yet, when people come here, you tell them before they can build anything, do anything of this nature with their buildings, they must meet the ADA requirements. But yet, you don't. Why is that? Why is it that you have a problem with that? Why is it that if a person that is handicapped moves slow, it's a joke? You should not be joking about people that's handicapped. They are going to move slow. This makes no sense. Today we got a spot where you can visibly walk in to walk up the steps to come in here, but no place for handicapped people. This should be changed. This should be changed tomorrow. Not in the next century, not in the next 3 centuries, tomorrow. If you can tell everybody else they need to do something. Once you gain access into this building, and if you're handicapped, before this desk was put here, was there really any place at this meeting for a handicapped person? And that was 27 years after the act passed before you put this table here. 27 years. But yet you want somebody to put something there. That's why I say every now and then to y'all inappropriate behavior. Y'all should be doing the same thing to everybody else. Just like that room over there when you would have meetings in it. You know, for the last 15 years, there have been 3 people that are visibly handicapped, but yet you go over the room capacity size and have handicapped people in there. If something happens, how are they going to get out? Do you even have a plan or action plan for this? As slow as you are doing everything. And today, even though the building is not marked with yellow tape looking like a crime scene all the way around it, but there is out there by the handicap parking. And that's such a shame to have to walk this far to get here.
Thank you, Mr. Keeler. Next, we'll hear from Mr. William McMurray. McMurray.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here today as an ally of the city of Southfield. I've worked with Chief Barron at Kroger's and at Myers to talk about firearm safety and security. And at this point today, I'm here just to announce that we have a program that if you go to our website and request a rack to be installed in your home, we'll be able to grant that request of yours. Janine Stewart is a Southfield resident. She's also with Protect Our Children for Life. And her, with my wife and my family, they have created an organization to protect children from all type of duress. And they've also included the agenda of keeping firearms away from children. They also do financial literacy and other programs. However, American RAC's whole purpose is to provide responsible firearm owners with a storage and security system that will prevent unauthorized use of firearms. And again, we were very successful with Chief Barron at Myers and at Kroger's. And today I do have some handouts that I would like to leave you guys, because the person only has to go online and ask for a rack. It's a QR code here, and it'll take you right to the application page. In addition, I'd like to also encourage and endorse the Orange gun safety program that I do see that you have on your agenda today. We would like to work with them. Our whole team is here, and we're interested in not just having it for the month of June, but all year round. So I really appreciate the time today. If you have any questions or comment, I will leave my contact information, and Ms. Stewart and Ms. McMurray will leave their contact information as well.
Thank you. Thank you. You could leave it with the clerk.
Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Jacob Abraham.
Hello,
Hello.
my name is Jacob Abraham. I'm with Indica LLC. I was awarded a conditional permit, zoning permit for a marijuana dispensary at 12 Mile and Telegraph. Since then, the group members of mine asked me to be part of an illegal business, and I refused to be part of that illegal business, and so therefore I was removed from the group. I was the only one part of that group who was qualified to apply for this license. I believe that they're still operating with a silent partner, which is illegal by the MRA and CRA standards, and they also violate Southfield's own policy. If it doesn't go to me, it should go to the fourth in line. It should not go back to the property owners, who at that time were not qualified and were not even able to apply for this license. I'm seeking an injunction to prevent Dreams Canna at the corner of 12 Mile and Telegraph for violations and breach of contract, and that issue is before a circuit court. I brought a copy of those filings for you guys all to review. Due to the violations of Southfield's own policy and the CRA, MRA violations, I'm asking the City Council to table their license tonight and let the circuit court decide what's best for this license. If not, Southfield, while on notice from me about these issues and the pending lawsuit, may end up authorizing an illegal marijuana dispensary to open in the city of Southfield, which I don't think anybody wants. So I'm here to please ask to stop this license. It was taken from me in a bad manner, and that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. You can leave the copies with the clerk. Thank you. Next, we have Denise Glentz. Denise, are you here? Okay, we'll hear from Ms. Nina Greenstein.
Later on.
This is the only opportunity.
No, I'm just part of the agenda.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay. No more communications. Council, next we have our presentations. The first presentation is a joint resolution, Wear Orange National Gun Violence Awareness Day, June 3rd. And I'll just read it. The joint resolution in recognition of Wear Orange National Gun Violence Awareness Day, June 3rd, 2022. Whereas Hadia Pettleton, a high school student from the south side of Chicago, was shot and killed in Chicago at the age of 15, just 1 week after performing in President Obama's second inaugural parade in 2013. And whereas after Hadia Pettleton's death, her childhood friends chose to commemorate her life by wearing orange, the color hunters wear to protect themselves and others. And whereas since June 2015, thousands of Americans wear orange to speak out and honor Hadia Pettleton and the more than 110 people whose lives were cut short and the hundreds wounded by gun violence daily. And whereas National Gun Violence Awareness Day is observed nationally on the first Friday in June and the following weekend each year to promote awareness and educate people about gun violence in America. And whereas nationwide partners such as the Brady Campaign to prevent gun violence, Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, Gun Owners for Responsible Ownership, My Brother's Keeper, MoveOn.org, National PTA, and Sandy Hook Promise are working hard every day to build a future where every American can live free from gun violence. And whereas the 8th National Gun Violence Awareness Day will fall on Friday, June 3rd, 2022, more than 150 key buildings and landmarks nationwide will turn orange in support of Wear Orange National Gun Violence Awareness Day to show their support for a future free and from gun violence. For a future free from gun violence. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Mayor and City Council of the City of Southfield, County of Oakland, State of Michigan, do hereby proclaim June 3rd, 2022 as Wear Orange National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the City of Southfield and encourage the residents and businesses of Southfield to light the city orange to show their support and end gun violence. Council, this is a resolution.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to move the approval of the joint resolution to Wear Orange National Gun Violence Awareness Day of June 3rd.
It's been moved by Councilman Mandelbaum, supported by Councilman Brightwell, in support of the resolution to Wear Orange National Gun Violence Awareness Day on June 3rd. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Our next presentation is for Men's Health Month. This joint resolution of the Mayor and City Council declaring June 2022 as Men's Health Month in the City of Southfield in conjunction with the Men's Health Network. Whereas despite advances in medical technology and research, men continue to live an average of 5 years less than women, with Native American and African American men having the lowest life expectancies. And whereas COVID-19 variants continue to spread across the country, with the Centers for Disease Control reporting that males are more likely to die from this pandemic. And whereas educating the public and health care providers about the importance of a healthy lifestyle and early detection of male health problems will result in reducing rates of mortality from disease. And whereas men are educated about the value that preventative health care can play in prolonging their lifespan and their role as productive family members will be more likely to participate in health screenings. And whereas fathers who stay connected to their children and maintain a healthy lifestyle are role models for their children and have happier, healthier children. And whereas the Men's Health Network has worked with Congress to develop a national men's health awareness program to help educate men and boys and their families about the importance of positive health attitudes and preventative health practices. And whereas Men's Health Month focusing on a broad range of men's health issues, including heart disease, mental health, diabetes, and prostate, testicular, and colon cancer. Now therefore be it resolved, the Mayor and City Council of the City of Southfield, County of Oakland, State of Michigan, do hereby proclaim June 22nd, 2022 as Men's Health Month in Southfield. Be it further resolved that the Mayor and City Council encourage the citizens of Southfield to increase awareness of the importance of a healthy lifestyle, regular exercise, and medical checkups. Thank you. Council?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that we approve the joint resolution of the Mayor and City Council declaring June of 2022 as Men's Health Month in the City of Southfield in conjunction with the Men's Health Network.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Brightwell, supported by Councilman Frazier for the approval of the resolution, the joint resolution for Men's Health Month, declaring June 2022 as Men's Health Month. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I believe the previous joint resolution for national gun violence, I believe we have a speaker here for that organization,
Okay,
if you don't mind.
not at all.
Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. We have been here at the council meeting the last several years, and I didn't realize that. Thank you. So, okay. We are we are the ones who initiated the Wear Orange Proclamation, or that is National Gun Violence Awareness Day, and we're so happy to meet the people from Protect Our Children, because beyond Gun Violence Awareness Day, one day or one weekend every year, we really need to work toward gun safety. Thank you. Gun safety and gun violence awareness. After the horrible incident in Buffalo last week, every time after those incidences, people get very upset and are concerned about gun violence. But the real truth is that the majority of gun violence takes place through suicide and homicide, not mass shootings. And so we, as citizens, concerned citizens, we need to talk about gun safety, as the Protect My Children also agree with us. We have an educational program that's called Be Smart for Kids, and we offer presentations about gun safety awareness. and the important things that parents and other adults can do to keep kids safe, because it's not children's responsibility to be safe around guns. It's adults' responsibilities. So we want to thank you for recognizing June 3rd as a special day and to remember all the victims and survivors of gun violence, but it is not enough. We really need to move forward with protecting our children and our families all year round. So the last thing I would like to say is that, once again, Mr. McNamara, was it, McCormick, who spoke about gun safety. We really want to stress the importance of safe storage for guns, because guns, unsupervised, unsecured guns in the home are a major factor in gun suicide and in things like the school shootings. So we'd like to remind our citizens and our council as well about this. Thank you for taking this issue seriously, and we appreciate the time.
Thank you. Did you want to speak?
I was just going to say thank you.
No,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you for taking time out this evening to speak to us.
Certainly, it's important to us.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Madam President,
Yes.
as long as we're talking about gun safety, there was a question I intended to ask, and that is, the gun racks, is there a charge involved with the gun racks that the police are
Not to my knowledge, but I don't know. Yes, sir. Please come back to the mic and address that for us, please.
I commend you for the work you've done, and I'm a big fan. Look forward to working with you. The rack will be provided. If you go to the website and apply to have a rack installed in your home, they will be free of charge. So all you have to do is take go to www.theamericanrack.com. It's a gifting program, and the applicant takes about 2 minutes to answer some questions, take the pledge, and then at that time, we will process the applications and get you installed as soon as possible.
now, does that handle both handguns and long guns?
Yeah, the benefit, thank you so much, Councilman, for the question. The benefit of the rack over the trigger locks and cable locks is that it can do multiple firearms. It can do handguns and rifles and AR-15s, and it can be mounted. It can be secured on a wall or on a surface, any structural foundation. So as a result of that, there's no snatch and grab. There's no unauthorized use. This prohibits kids from getting a hold of guns. It's one more step before you get to deadly force, and it prevents people from stealing your firearms as well.
Okay, and what about the ammunition?
I'm sorry?
What about the ammunition?
We never suggest that you have a loaded firearm on our device. That's why we've never had a claim or a problem, because we did the due care and tell them that it's not a rapid deployment device. It's a storage device.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, I would just like to ask if our city administrator or our planner would address the parking for the handicap. I thought the city was in compliance, but I just want to make sure, and if not, we can look into this matter.
Yep. Madam President, when we did the front circle a few years ago, it was reviewed. We are in compliance. However, we will do another review, and we will also consider some in front of the circle. We have ample in both the south and the west parking lots. That front is not meant to be a long-term parking lot, but we'll put it under a microscope. And it continues to be a challenge for all organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, next we have our regular meeting minutes of April 25th, 2022.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to move the approval of our regular meeting minutes of April 25th, 2022.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Mandelbaum, supported by Councilman Brightwell, for the approval of our regular meeting minutes of April 25th, 2022. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay. Next, we're at our public hearing and site plans. Our first public hearing is on the Community Development Block Grant.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight, Nina Greenstein will be making the presentation. If you some of you may not have met Nina. Nina is a non-career working with Rick Lampy, as we recently discussed. Both are non-career employees and been doing a fantastic job in managing the program. In a moment, there'll be a slide, and we'll discuss this year's allocation of the amount, Nina?
Yes, I mean, I'll get started because the slide is just, similar to what you have already in your packets, and thank you for the introduction. I was at this meeting remotely from my desk a year ago, but it's nice to see you in person, and I'm presenting the proposed budget for the Community Development Block Grant Program, and the city has been participating since 1975 in this program, so the next fiscal year, we're going to be receiving $389,079 of entitlement from HUD, and that's meant to benefit low to moderate income residents. And we are going to be proposing the same activities and similar funding as we did last year. Okay, so there it's up, so you can kind of see a visual of that. We have our housing activities. That's the largest part of the budget. That's the CHORE program, which assists and repairs homes for seniors and physically challenged homeowners. And this year, we're anticipating a client list of about 150 for this upcoming year. We have our SHIP program, the Southfield Home Improvement Program. It's the no-interest loan program. And actually, you can see on the chart that we've been getting paid back pretty nicely with those revolving loans, putting it back into the program. And this year, even with a lot of challenges, COVID-related challenges with getting contractors and paying for supplies, we have still repaired 9 houses and currently working with 7. And I was told today there are actually 48 applications already in. And Rebuilding Together, which is housing rehab using volunteers. And we do have a project planned to partner with them for next month. Some homes and a park repair. The other next section of the budget, public service. That's our emergency relief funds for people that might be facing evictions, utility shutoff, food shortage, medical issues. There's South Oakland Shelter. It's also, I think it goes by Lighthouse of Michigan now. Haven, domestic violence shelter, and Southfield Youth Assistance. And finally, after 2 years of not a lot of programming, they are now actively awarding camp scholarships, summer enrichment activities, and we're excited for them. And of course, administrative fees, which also includes the Fair Housing Center. But we do have a lot of us working on CDBG, myself, Rick Lampy, Denise Glintz, who's here, doing CHORE, Joe Tomzak, Lorna Boulware, and Rhonda Terry, all working on our CDBG programs. So we hope after the public hearing, you'll approve our annual action plan for the next fiscal year. And then we plan to submit our application for the funds.
Thank you.
Any questions?
This is a public hearing. I'd like to declare the public hearing open. If there's anyone here that would like to speak to this topic tonight, please come up to the podium, and you'll have 3 minutes. Okay, seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilman Brightwell?
I know that it could be in the documentation, but what was the cause? Did they give a definition why it went from 4811.5 down to 398?
No, they didn't, but it did go down the year previous too. And I know it's based on a formula and
If you recall, the last time the federal government moved to budget, to balance the federal budget, there were resolutions put in place that will continue to shrink these budgets. HUD as an organization, with the pressures and rents across the country, I think there's a larger portion of their budget going into housing support, rental subsidies, whether they're project-based or voucher-based, but it's just fiscal pressures and continues to decrease. I think as an organization, as Nina mentioned, we do have 40 people who are on a short list for improvement. We continue to work with Oakland County's home program, and we try to find and identify other revenue sources, but just pressure at the federal level, so.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. No other questions? Okay. Council, I have a motion to either approve or,
Madam Chair, I'd like to move the approval of the Community Development Block Grant 2022 to 2023 Annual Allocation Plan and the
it's been moved by Councilman Mandelbaum, supported by Councilman Brightwell, for the approval of the CDBG projects as presented here tonight. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have our rezoning request for Design House.
Through the chair, I'll start the introduction. Mr. Spence is pulling up the PowerPoint presentation. PZR 21-0006 is part and parcel to the next two items. We'll do one presentation. We'll take each item separately. PSLU 21-0011 and PSP 21-0012 all deal with the same property located at 28681 Northwestern Highway, located on the southeast corner of Northwestern Highway and Franklin Roads. Rezoning request is from B1 Business to B3 General Business. And then there's a component special use and site plan to allow for the construction of a 2,474 gross square foot gasoline filling station with convenience store. And the aerial shows the location of the subject site. Existing zoning is B1, neighborhood business. Proposed zoning is B3, general business. The current zoning, as I stated, is B1. The future land use supports the B3 as part of a regional mixed use. And at this time, Madam Chair, we're just considering the request to rezone from B1 to B3. I'd like to point out that the Franklin Road actually runs between the two B3 zoning districts on the screen, and according to our zoning ordinance, the zoning districts extend to the midway point of the right-of-way, so this would be contiguous to the B3 that's located to the northwest of the parcel. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions the council may have after the public hearing.
Okay. I'm going to open the public hearing first for the rezoning, and then we'll go to the second half for the property special use. I now declare that the public hearing for PZR 21-0006, the rezoning request for Design House, is now open. If there's anyone here that would like to speak to this topic, please come forward. Okay, seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Council, do we have any questions regarding the rezoning?
Madam President,
Councilman Frazier?
through the chair to the planner, Just for clarification, when we do a rezoning like this, does the developer come in and say, I'd like to develop this piece of property, and you look at a map that says you can't do what you want to do and it needs to be rezoned, or does the developer come in knowing that it has to be rezoned and say, can you rezone this so I can do what I would like to do?
Through the chair, Mr. Frazier, we get both of those questions. Sometimes developers have a particular use in mind, and they ask if it's permitted under the current zoning, because many times they have a site-specific property that they're interested in, and other times they do their homework and realize that it will take a rezoning. The first thing that we reference is our future land use plan and our future land use map to see if the requested rezoning is consistent with what is the council has approved in the plan. We also look at a number of other factors with regards to relationship to other similar types of zoning district, and that's why I made the clarification that Franklin Road actually splits these two parcels, but in essence, whatever the zoning district is on the adjacent parcel runs to the middle of the road. And should council approve this, this would be contiguous B3 zoning. And then we look at other factors such as market conditions, whether or not the subject parcel can meet the minimum requirements of the zoning district and so forth. In this particular case, the applicant knew that they wanted to rezone for proposed gas station and knew what zoning that they required. We don't like to get into site specifics at this level because council has to consider all the potential uses in the B3 district, because the applicant could go away, or the proposed project might not get the financing, or there might be other impediments to moving forward. So we always remind the Planning Commission and the council to make your decisions based on all of the possible uses in the district.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilwoman Banks?
Well, I realize this is just approval for the rezoning. I just want to confirm the petitioner is aware that, you know, if this is approved, there will be no gasoline, no alcohol, beer, wine, soda at this location?
Through the chair, if the council does not approve the rezoning, we don't deal with the next two items. And it would be appropriate, again, to bring that concern up when we're talking about the special land use as well as the site plan. But the petitioner is aware.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. No other questions? Okay, council, are we prepared to vote?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to move the approval of PZR 21-0006, the rezoning request for the property located at 28681 Northwestern Highway to go from B1 neighborhood business to B3 general business.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Mandelbaum, supported by Councilwoman Banks, for the support of the rezoning request by Design House as presented tonight. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Madam Chair, our next item would be to consider introducing ordinance number 1751 on this subject.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to move to introduce ordinance number 1751.
Support. It's been moved by Councilman Mandelbaum, supported by Councilman Frazier, for the approval to introduce ordinance number 1751. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank
Thank you. Our next public hearing is PSLU 21-0011, which is a special use request of Design House to allow for a 2,846 gross square foot gasoline filling station with convenience store, property located at 28681 Northwestern Highway. So it's the same subject parcel, but now we're looking at the proposed gas station with the convenience store. And we do have the site plan up. There is a separate approval required for the site plan, but the special, the site plan would be subject to the special use. So at this time, I would ask the petitioner to come up and give a brief presentation before we open the public hearing.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. My name is Peter Stuhlreier, Design House Architecture, 3300 Auburn Road, Auburn Hills, Michigan. I'm here representing Mr. Nuri Tier. I'm also joined by a representative from Oscar W. Larson and the landscape architect as well to answer any questions that might arise during the presentations. I'm not sure in the site plan or in the special land use, should I keep it summary,
Just keep it to the
general
use,
summary?
and then
Okay.
we'll get into the site plan at the next item.
Okay, so this project essentially is a convenience store and gas station. The gas station has 5 filling station areas under a canopy. It also provides an electric vehicle charging station. The convenience store will not have beer or wine or liquor, nor will it have cannabis or any of the related items. It will be open 24 hours a day. We're proposing a safe, well-lit, new, ADA accessible, and a friendly convenience store for the neighborhood. We have had questions about supply and demand and have answered those several times in past meetings. And we are also providing some public art. So, and that you'll see, and I guess in the future, in the site plan presentation. But with that, that's kind of a summary of the project, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
If I could, through the chair, just can you confirm that the hours of operation will be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
Yes, sir, 24/7.
Okay. This is for a public hearing, so if you don't mind, if you would be seated for just a moment, let's open it up to the
Yes,
public.
ma'am.
If there's anyone here that would like to speak to this topic, the public hearing is now open. Please come forward. Okay, seeing none, I will declare the public hearing closed. Council, do we have any questions for the special use request?
And again, if I could, just ask the council to keep any site-specific questions to the next item.
Okay, Councilwoman Banks?
I think this is regarding the special use, some of the conditions that would be under, sorry, some of the conditions would be for the special use, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
We have a recommended resolution with 8 items, just specific to the special use, and then we have a separate resolution regarding the site plan issues.
Okay, so under item 5, it says prohibited activities include but are not limited to the following: the sale of medical marijuana or medical marijuana infused products. Why is that not reading medical and or recreational?
Well, we don't, we opted out of recreation.
Well, we did today, but shouldn't it also be included in here just for, I'm looking down the road, period. I mean,
Well, the
marijuana.
special land use runs with the land. So if I mean, I'll defer to the city attorney, but currently, we do allow medical marijuana under certain circumstances. We have opted out of recreational marijuana. And so therefore, we're dealing with the special land use that runs with the land right now.
So would this be under the site plan then? I mean, I personally feel that recreational should be added in there. If we're going to speak of one, let's speak of both.
Do you, I'll ask the city attorney if you see any conflicts with that.
Good evening, if I may. So currently, the ordinance that we have in place doesn't allow medical marijuana specifically at gas stations, and as Planner Crowe stated, because we don't have recreational marijuana that's why it's not in there. I also understand Councilwoman Banks is saying if something should happen in the future, is that something that we would want to put in there? I mean, I don't see any harm in it off the top of my head right now, that's what I believe, that if we're just saying no marijuana, period, even though we don't allow it, if for some reason our ordinance was to change, we would still not want any type of marijuana sold at gas stations.
And Ms. Banks, the reason I was confused is because I was looking at the special land use conditions, and I believe you were citing from the site plan conditions. So I would ask if we could just revisit that under the site plan section.
Okay, I apologize, I thought I read this in the special land use, but,
It's item 5 under site plan.
okay, but I thought I also read it in the special land use when I was going through this. The special, under the discussion, and I'll have to find it, under the special land use, it talks about medical marijuana, and I just feel if we're going to address one, we should address both. Let's see if I can find it.
And if I heard the city attorney, she's saying we could just prohibit marijuana altogether?
Yeah, well, I know it's in our ordinance already for not having marijuana at the gas stations. Right now, we have an opt-out ordinance, unless there's something that say otherwise, why we couldn't prohibit it now, even though we already have it on the books that we don't allow it in the city. Should something happen, this particular location could be on the books as saying no marijuana, although I'm sure that if we ever got to that point, we wouldn't allow it anyways.
Well, through the chair to Ms. Banks, if the attorney doesn't have any concerns, when you make your recommendation, we'll put that in as an amended item.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilman
I
Frazier.
don't know if this is site-specific or if it's a general question, but will it require a curb cut on Northwestern Highway?
I believe there's 2 proposed curb cuts on Northwestern Highway, which, again, is the Road Commission of Oakland County's jurisdiction.
Yes,
So
sir.
they'd be
That's true.
the ones that would have to sign off on those curb cuts.
Okay, so the development will be held up until we get authorization from the county in order to do the curb cuts?
Again, typically, after an applicant receives their zoning and planning approval, then they get involved with detail engineering and building, and it's in the course of the detail engineering and building that they would seek any permissions for curb cuts from either MDOT or the Road Commission of Oakland County.
Does anybody know how far the next curb cut is from this piece of property?
I know if you can look up here, there's a curb cut on the south, heading southeast, and then they're located right on Franklin. And I know there's geometrics when traffic engineers are reviewing the location of curb cuts from each other, curb cuts from across the street, curb cuts from intersections. So they look at all that and the volume of traffic before they would permit. And there's no guarantees that if there's an existing curb cut, that the agency will approve it in the same location. So they look at all those factors before they issue a curb cut permit.
Okay, I'm thinking of the traffic at certain times of the day on Northwestern Highway that would make it pretty prohibitive from someone coming out into the traffic because it flows pretty fast, and they don't seem to honor the people that are trying to get into the flow.
As through the course of the Planning Commission, we did require them to do a traffic impact study, and as you recall from other traffic impacts, you can get ratings from A through D and still be passing a level E and later. And those levels of service actually just have to do with the amount of waiting time in between intersections and merging on traffic. And I believe there's no failing grades with the traffic impact study based on this proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Counsel?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to move the approval of PSLU 21-0011 as presented.
Is there support?
Clarification, as presented or with the change?
Are you referring to the change about the
The marijuana?
So my thought, and maybe the attorney can correct me, I think if we mention it, that we don't allow it, it may send a message that it's something that we do allow in other areas, or something that we're considering, you know, at a later time. If we don't mention it, we don't allow it, so we shouldn't have to mention it anyway.
Well, I guess,
That's my thought process.
well, then I would just like clarification. Is medical marijuana listed anywhere under the special use? Because if medical marijuana is, then we should add recreational. I thought I saw it, but.
Again, Ms. Banks, it is clearly stated in the site plan recommendation.
Okay.
I don't see, I have the special use in here. I don't see that as one of the conditional of approval.
I did see the mention of marijuana in the next public hearing, but not in this one.
Okay, thank you.
So I would leave my motion as is. I would leave Councilman Hoskins seconded it.
You did? Okay. It's been moved by Councilman Mandelbaum, supported by Councilman Hoskins for the approval of PSLU 21-0001, the special use request of Design House as presented tonight. All in favor?
0011.
0011. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, and thank you for that correction.
Why don't you stay up there? Thank you. Our next item is the consideration of the site plan, PSP 21-0012, site plan review request of Design House to allow for the construction of an approximately 2,474 gross square foot gasoline filling station with convenience store, along with other site amenities, property located at 28681 Northwestern Highway. Up on the screen is the site plan. These are proposed building elevations. This is the color site plan with landscaping, the floor plan with the convenience store, and then the perspective with the proposed art. There is no public hearing, so Peter, if you would want to make a few comments on things that may not have been covered, and then we'll open it up to council.
I'd love to. I can elaborate a little bit. This is like I mentioned before, this is a new, safe, well-lit, compliant establishment. 10-foot ceilings, LED lighting, energy efficiency, electric charging stations, exemplary landscaping and low walls, pedestrian access, a beautiful ground-painted mural. We're working on the technology of that currently with our artist and through some help from administration about the specifications of the types of paint and how long we can expect it lasts without having to be repainted or touched up. Again, 24 hours, staffed, security cameras. It's parked to the code in terms of the convenience store and the employees, clean bathrooms. This is the type of station that's, this is for the next 20 or 30 years, this is the type of station that you want in the town. It's a perfect site for it. The peninsula is wonderful. The traffic on the 200-foot right-of-way Northwestern is in the right direction for us. And we've got places for snow storage. There's no outside storage of items, such as ice makers on the sidewalks and other things like that. So really, this is the next generation of gas station, and we're very excited to propose it.
Councilman Mandelbaum?
Thank you. I think you mentioned it, I may have missed it, the material that is going to be the work of art.
Yes.
What material is that going to be?
That is a MDOT grade acrylic street marking paint that's fully blendable in terms of the primary colors to go from white to black and everything in between. On top of that is another clear acrylic coating with a kind of tactile traction sand embedded in it. So we do expect, based on our discussions and experience in this climate, I know we've got some other climates we're dealing with in our precedent analysis, but in this climate, we're looking at least 5 years without a touch-up.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Brightwell?
The art pieces interest me also. Has this material been used anywhere else in the country for this purpose, for this type of activity, and for this kind of climate?
It has. It's quite common, and we can provide our precedent analysis to the council or through the administration to the city.
You say it has?
It has been, yeah.
Where?
Well, we have one that's in St. Louis, and we've got 2 examples from downtown Detroit that we're working off of, where we know the artists, where we know the materials, and we know the durability after the time that's passed.
No, this is it's a selling point for that particular location, for that spot. I can see if we get something resembling what you depicted there, I can see that going into the calendar that we produce every year, which gets wide distribution. And we get a lot of awards for that calendar. So it's just it looks nice enough for that presentation. And I'll be definitely interested in what kind of design you will have there, and it will be a landmark type item. But I'm going to come back to a more current issue. You say you will have numerous charging stations. What would be your capacity for charging stations? Because we know down the road, that's what, in essence, that's what the future automobiles will be. Majority of, theoretically, will be on the part of charging, EV. And I know we'll have gasoline. As long as we have people, we'll have gasoline. Simply because everybody will not be able to, afford an EV at that point in time. So what is your capacity for EV charging stations?
Well, our capacity, I can only speak for what we're designing for day one, which is a single pole charging station near the building itself, up against the building itself, that has 2 charging, what you call them, plugs. So you'd have 2 at the same time. If you took a single car up, you'd charge twice as fast if both cars were charging at the same time, but it's still a high-speed charger. The highest speed we can get our hands on at this time.
And if I could, through the chair, I understood the representative stated that the electrical to the gas pumps could be converted in the future if needed.
It can be, yeah, but there's a distance requirement
Yes.
between actual, combustibles and the electrical, but yes.
And I heard today on WWJ that there's 284 million diesel cars, that the average age of them are 12 years, they're getting older. And I believe they said even with the rate of EV cars coming out, that only is going to represent 10% or 30 million cars of a 300 million car fleet, so that we're likely to have diesel and gas stations for quite some time, at least another generation.
Right. Well, I understand the evolutionary process of a new product and a new industry getting footage and getting a toehold in society. But so you're telling me that you're just planning for those 2 for the foreseeable future.
For the foreseeable future. But the renovation is conduit underground, and so and some electric capacity. So if the electrical capacity is there and things change, certainly could add as demand increases.
Okay. Did you perform any traffic study for this particular location once you decided to place
Yes, sir.
something there?
Yeah, yes, the planning commission required a traffic impact study that I referenced earlier.
It was, yeah.
So what was the diagnosis, or what was the?
Well, I don't know, the levels of service are still in acceptable ranges. And Peter, if you had any other specifics on that traffic impacts study.
I don't have it up in front of me, but it was to the degree that there was no noticeable impact to the traffic flow by adding this to that corner.
Okay.
So there was no downstream light timing, there were no lane additions needed, there was no widening of the road needed. It was
Okay, so it didn't degrade anything?
didn't, yeah,
It's
did no
within the
change.
capacity of the way the road is currently designed.
Okay, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Frazier?
Yes, when you were describing the amenities that go into the gas station, you were saying that you're going to have bathrooms that are clean bathrooms. My question is, it seems like every time you watch the news, something happens, that someone gets snatched or somebody gets, they're on the news for some reason. Is access to your bathrooms on the inside or on the outside? And I'm looking for a safety measure.
It's an inside bathroom,
They're inside bathrooms?
yes.
Okay. And also, will you have an air pump?
Oh, I'm not sure on the operation side. Air pump? Yes, air pump.
Will you be charging for the air?
Is there a cost to the air? It costs money for air? Okay, yes, yes.
I had an occasion where one of my tires was low, the alarm came on my car, and I went in, and it seemed almost prohibitive to use the air pump. It was $1. I had to change it $1 for 4 quarters in order to even turn the thing on. That seemed very prohibitive. I would hope that you would take a look at a reasonable rate if you're going to charge for the air. Thank you.
Aren't the newer ones all credit card?
Pardon?
Yeah, but I'm on Commissioner Frazier's side, or Councilman Frazier's side. I don't have good luck with the paper air. So if you could just put a better one in, a good one, one that works. Yeah.
Thank you. Councilwoman Banks?
Again, I'd just like to reiterate that we will be adding medical/recreational in the 2 areas.
We could do that, Ms. Banks, or we could just strike out medical and just reference the sale of marijuana or marijuana-infused products are prohibited.
That's fine. Thank you.
Councilman Mandelbaum?
Thank you. I guess this question is more for Planner Crode. Will the city maintenance agreement cover the artwork?
It does. The maintenance agreement is our fallback. It covers landscaping, it covers building materials, it covers art. And so we have, by them recording and signing the site maintenance agreement, it gives us an avenue first through the codes department. Of course, we always try to get compliance first. And then should we not get compliance in a reasonable fashion, then it goes over to the attorney's office and ends up at the court level. So there are provisions in there to protect this. Just prior to tonight's meeting, we did have a virtual meeting with the architect and the proposed artist to review the paint materials, the wear, maintenance, and so forth. So we have vetted this as much as we can. This is the first application of art on pavement in the city that I'm aware of. But what he referenced was the MDOT grade paint that's an acrylic base that also has a sealer on it, and that's similar to what they use for the road markings. And yes, we see wear and tear on crosswalks and road markings, but it's the same level of paint, same grade as we find on road markings.
Yeah, I was about to say, if we're going to trust MDOT with their quality, I don't know how good that would be, but, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Banks?
Thank you. And to the petitioner, I just would like to say thank you for bringing this beautiful design to our city on Northwestern Highway. I'm really excited to see it open, and I think it's just going to be a wonderful compliment, if anything, an award-winning site. So it's a beautiful station.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Brightwell?
Just as a understanding of the industry, what proportion is the convenience store of your revenue?
Oh, goodness, I don't know the operational books. Come on up. I can say one thing about the artist. He was certainly pleased that he doesn't have to climb a ladder or ride up a crane to fix the mural in the future. So it does make it a little easier to have it at ground level, to keep it alive.
Good evening. My name is Adam Tier. I'm the owner of the property or the developer. And I'm sorry I didn't hear your question about the...
What percentage of your convenience store, the revenue, what would be that? What percent would the convenience store generate to your revenue?
It depends on the area a lot, but I'm hoping would be 50-50, I'm hoping, 50-50, like 50% store, 50% gasoline. It depends on where like an area where you're at. Sometimes we have a store that does very well and the gas is low, less volume, but it depends, as I said, in the area.
Okay. All right, I just know this probably won't get too much foot traffic. Given the location, you're not going to get too much foot traffic. But from an industry standard, in the service station industry, do they have a norm what the convenience normally provide 20%, 15%, 30% of a station's revenue? Is there a norm? Is there a norm?
No, there isn't. I mean, it just depends on what area you're in, what city, what kind of volume on gas, what kind of volume you're doing in the store. With this store, I'm looking at like early 50-50, maybe, that's what I'm looking at right now with this location.
Okay, but you feel comfortable enough to place your business there that you will survive at that location?
Yes, I do.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, is there anything else, planner?
No, we will make the suggested amendment to the resolution, but you could adopt the proposed resolution as amended, unless there's any further questions of us.
Okay. Thank you, council.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to move the approval of PSP 21-0012 as presented with the one wording amendment in number 8.
In number what?
Number 8 with the marijuana mention.
Okay.
Well, that was mentioned in item 5.
5, so okay. I see it in number 8 as well.
We'll correct it throughout the entire resolution.
Okay.
In all places.
In all places where it mentions marijuana.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Mandelbaum, supported by Councilwoman Banks for the approval to the site plan review request by Design House as amended with the verbiage correction in all areas for marijuana. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Crode?
Our next public hearing is the zoning ordinance text amendment for Northwestern Highway Corridor District. This has come before you previously under discussion item, and the future land use plan previously does support. When we actually implemented the overlay development district, we were just one parcel short. So we'd like to get that corrected. We do anticipate a proposal for the development if this overlay development district is approved. We are required to have a public hearing on this, and after the public hearing, I'd be happy to answer any questions. What this does is just provide that additional parcel in red, the eligibility to go forth under the ODD. The property owner would still have to come back to council and the city with a specific proposal. But this just extends the area of the eligibility for the ODD.
Okay. Well, this is a public hearing. I will declare the public hearing open for PZTA 22-0001 for the text amendment. If there is anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this topic, please come forward. Okay. Seeing none, I will declare the public hearing closed. Council, is there any comments or questions for Mr. Crode?
Madam Chair,
Okay.
I'd like to move approval of PZTA 22-0001.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Mandelbaum, supported by Councilwoman Banks, for the approval of PZTA 22-0001 text amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Madam Chair, our next order of business would be to consider introducing ordinance number 1752.
I'd like to move the introduction of ordinance number 1752.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Mandelbaum, supported by Councilman Frazier, to introduce ordinance number 1752. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, council, we go into our agenda items for discussion and/or action. Our first item is the historic district designated for the McKinley School.
And Madam Chair, Mr. Spence of our office will be introducing this item and answering any questions.
Yep. Thank you. Good evening, council. The item before you is a discussion item. So should the council find this proposal satisfactory, we will be bringing it back to you on June 13th under consent. But this particular item is a historic district designation request for McKinley School. The historic district designation is recognized on a local city level, and it's basically the status recognizes the historical nature of the property. This matter was first brought to you regarding McKinley School back in August of 2020. And it was at that time in which council did approve further study for this particular lot to see if it would actually meet the requirements for historical designation. Since that time, the planning department has put together a study on the subject property. We prepared a preliminary report, posted that report for extended public review, and on April 27th, 2022, the Historic Designation Advisory Board held a public hearing, and it was advertised to everyone within 350 feet of that particular property, held the public hearing, and had a unanimous decision of favorable recommendation for historic designation for this particular site. By way of history, The school building itself was named after President McKinley and constructed in 1929 and developed by the J. Lee Baker Company in an area known as Southfield Park. This was actually before Southfield actually became incorporated. The building is 35,225 square feet, and it's built in the collegiate Gothic style. Further growth in the area required that the building actually be expanded, and that was completed in 1956 in a contrasting international style. The school itself features steep pitched gable roofs and limestone trim, Tudor arched entry porch, terrazzo floors, and a tile fireplace. The school itself is historically significant for its unique place in Southfield's early history and for its exemplary collegiate Gothic design, which it is among the oldest and best preserved in the city. McKinley School meets the criteria for exceptional significance under criteria consideration A, which is associated with events that have made a significant contribution to Southfield history, and C, as it embodies the distinctive characteristics of construction due to its creation to attract families as part of a neighborhood development. If we look at the slides here, this is the historic district designation flow chart. As I had noted, there are a number of steps that we do have to go through before we get to the point where we are with council this evening with a discussion on the potential historic designation and ultimately to put together an ordinance. The purpose of the designation is to secure and recognize properties that hold a unique place in Southfield history. Southfield City Code states that the process is intended to safeguard the heritage of the city by preserving areas of the city which reflect elements of cultural, social, spiritual, economic, political engineering, and architectural history or its architecture, stabilize and improve property values for each historic district and surrounding area, foster civic beauty and community pride, strengthen the local community, promote the use of historic districts for education, pleasure, welfare of the citizens of the city, the state, and the United States of America. As I noted the process, council authorized the study. We released it for 60 days, and again, we're at this point in which we are seeking ultimately the designation by council. Existing conditions of the building, so these are images of what the building currently looks like. There were some historical clippings from the 1920s that actually designated the school for dedication, as well as the J. Lee Baker Company, which did the construction not only within the subdivision. Again, the significance of McKinley School is for its Gothic style. It's the oldest of this type in Southfield and retains many of the original and unique architectural elements. And it meets the criteria for exceptional significance, as I had noted earlier. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions should the council have. Again, this is a discussion item only, and then it would come back to you in June on the 13th.
Councilman Brightwell?
Mr. Smith, I think I know the answer, but is this location under consideration for redevelopment or condo?
Yeah, if I may through the chair, this particular property in June of last year actually received a designation for residential unit development district. So it already has a, similar to an ODD, only it's called a residential unit development district on it, which allows for flexibility in construction. So yes, this site already has a designation for RUDD on it. Again, the whole idea behind that RUDD, and it was specific, that this specific school retain its architectural integrity. You can do things to the inside, which in this case were apartments, but then there was also a second phase to that, which included some townhomes along George Washington on the east side of the property.
Okay, you answered the point I was getting at. How much, if it gets this historical designation, how much can you allow to make changes to it but you indicated the exterior, but the interior can be modified for the future purposes.
Yeah, the historic designation really does deal with the exterior of the building and not necessarily the interior. However, through the RUDD, the developer did note that they are retaining a lot of the interior aspects historically as well, including the flooring and the tiling and things like that within the interior.
If I could, through the chair to Mr. Brightwell, the one thing the local designation does is it protects it from being demolished just outright. Even though it does have a zoning approval, that development may not receive its financing, it may not go forward for whatever reason. So it does provide a level of protection on the alteration of the exterior, but it prevents the building from automatically being demolished without going through a process, a recommendation by the historic board and the council. Because right now, if the building was deemed obsolete or dangerous, the building official could issue a demolition. But now, if it receives a historic designation, he has to take a pause and have it vetted before issuing a demolition permit. So we hope that the RUDD will move forward should financing be made available, but this is an extra layer of protection to the building should the development change or it not move forward.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Thanks. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilman Frazier?
Yes, the historical designation covers the main building, but there were some outbuildings that, if I recall correctly, there were outbuildings associated with this. Does the historical designation cover those also, or not?
I believe that the historical designation was for the main building itself and not the buildings that were built in a different style back in the 1950s when it expanded. So the designation would cover the original building that was built in 1929.
Now, does the building have to be a certain age before it qualifies for the designation?
Not that I'm aware of, at least within how the ordinance is worded. I believe that, the significance comes from, as I noted, and actually the slide does, with regard to, it has part of Southfield's history. The development company actually developed a lot of the houses within that particular area in the 1920s. And then it also has a lot of the historical significance on the inside, specific characteristics and such. But as far as I know, there's no age that is given within the ordinance that we have to adhere to.
If I could, through the chair, I know the National Register, you have to be at least 50 years old or older. And a building could be designated historic based on its age, based on its style, based on the person who lived there, who designed there. If you recall, the Smokey Robinson House was designated historic because of who he was in living there, not necessarily the style of the building. So as Mr. Spence has indicated, there's many different reasons why you could designate a property historic. And in this, it has multiple reasons: the architecture style, the builder, and the cultural history to Southfield.
And that's based on the local decision for making this historical, because the design and everything, there's not a standard number of designs that would allow this to be picked. We make that decision.
That's correct, because the greatest protection is at the local level. Then there's different levels of protection, like the National Historic Register. It comes with its own set of criteria, but this protects the demolition at the immediate level from our at the local level.
Okay, and is this state designation? Do we get the approval from the state?
This is only local.
Correct, it is only local, right.
But many times, the state and the federal are part and parcel to a local designation. There are much they're much longer process and there's different criteria. But the strongest protection that a community can have on a significant site is the local designation. You could have a National Register building be demolished if it meets certain criteria without going through the extra step at the local level if it doesn't have local protection.
I do remember, well, this has been a long time ago. If you recall how long we've had Carpenter Lake, there was a piece of property on 11 Mile Road that we owned that developer wanted, and we were trying to make, we were trying to buy Carpenter Lake, and we had a problem getting the owner of Carpenter Lake to sell it to us, so we turned it over to the two of them and let them negotiate. But in order to even do that, the federal government had to authorize us to, they had to give us authority to make that trade so that the piece of property on 11 Mile Road was available to trade for Carpenter Lake. Is that kind of what we're doing here?
Well, if I could, typically if you receive federal or state funding for parkland, you have to have an even swap of acreage that has to be approved. And it sounds like that might have been the situation with Carpenter Lake. I don't know of any historic, I can't imagine a situation where you could trade land with one being designated historic and one not, because the historic significance has to do with this particular building and who built it on this site, not an equivalent amount of land somewhere else in the city.
Maybe you ought to look.
But I am familiar enough with federal and state funding for parks and recreation. If there was acquisition or development on a parcel and you would like to remove it from the inventory, you have to have an equal or greater value of land and development somewhere else to make that trade.
Well, it happened. The last question I have is, if this is just a local decision to make this a historical designation, what protection do we have if someone down the road challenges whether or not it's a historical designation site?
Well, that's, if I could, Mr. Spence, this is part of the process that we do a public hearing, we do a study, we determine its value, and you as council give the final designation. So if someone, at least through the process, wanted to raise some objections or have us pause, there are many steps in the process for them to challenge the designation. But I believe once the council makes its decision and it's gone through a valid process, it'd be difficult to argue otherwise. Again, what it's doing is trying to protect the property through several additional steps. That doesn't mean to say that at some point, if the building's not developed, 50 years from now, it's falling down, you could say that it needs to be demolished, but at least it puts the pauses in place to try to protect and find out an alternative solution to demolition. And since you've already approved the residential unit development, many of those factors were already considered in the preservation and enhancement of the property, as if it did already have its historic designation. So you have twofold protection on this property.
Okay, all right. I just don't want to go through all this and then find out that there's a loophole in it, that someone come in and say, I don't like what you're doing, and I've got 500 people sign a petition to tear it down. So, okay, thank you.
I have one question. Is there two different projects? I see we have two historic designation numbers. We have a PHDD 0002. Is that different from the one that you're showing tonight?
That was the original number, but because of the time frame, we wanted to bring it more up to date, and that's why we gave it a 22 number. So it's the same project, just a new designated number for it.
Will that cause us some kind of
No.
confusion?
Mm-mm.
You sure? Because I thought we
I
filed by the numbers.
I don't see why it would. The same information is being provided to you under this new number.
So it should be replaced. We should get rid of the old number and just use the new number.
And use the new number, correct.
Okay. Councilman Mandelbaum?
It's not a question, but more of a comment. I had a chance to actually tour this building, and it is gorgeous on the inside. You could really see the craftsmanship from back in the day. So I'm glad that this is coming forward with this historic designation, so I'm fully in support of it.
Thank you. Okay, so this will be brought back to us for a public hearing and,
No public hearings required. It is just, it would come back to you on consent. It'll be similar to the Smokey Robinson House from a couple of years ago. So it'll just be an ordinance and a brand new ordinance. But yeah, you can handle it under consent.
but how, I thought we get public comment. Shouldn't we get public comment on this?
There's no public comment required under the designation, no. The
Okay.
public comment was held by the Historic Designation Advisory Board.
Okay.
They are the board that's required to have the public hearing.
Okay.
Council does not require a public hearing.
Okay, thank you. All right, our next item for discussion and/or action is the acceptance of the grant funding through Keep Michigan Beautiful Foundation.
So you may recall, I was before council in December seeking your authorization to submit for the grant, which was due at the end of January. We just received notification that our grant was awarded in the amount of $750. I know it's a nominal amount, but our process does require approval and authorization to submit for a grant, and then approval to accept the grant from City Council. The proposed location is on 11 Mile on the turnaround, and it's basically going to provide funding towards the landscaping that's going to be installed at the base of our obelisk. Up there in the upper right corner is a proposed landscaping plan. And again, the $750 will be utilized to offset the cost of the plantings. So we're seeking your approval to accept the grant in the amount of $750.
Okay, Councilman Brightwell?
Madam Chair, this seems like a no-brainer, so I would like to move that we accept the acceptance of the grant funding through Keep Michigan Beautiful as stipulated in the write-up.
Support?
It's been moved by Councilman Brightwell, supported by Councilman Mandelbaum for the approval of the acceptance of the grant funding through the Keep Michigan Beautiful Foundation. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Our next item for discussion and/or action is the medical marijuana facility license for HTP Telegraph LLC, doing business as Dreams Canna.
Madam President, the city is in receipt of a medical marijuana license from Dreams Canna. In your packet, you would have seen their application and the various city departments' approvals and the signatures of the department heads for those approval. At this time, the petitioners are available to address any questions from the honorable body, and the city attorney and the city planner will probably add some comments following my comments as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Terry, did you have anything to add?
Just that we can confirm that all of the zoning requirements that were conditions of the approval have been satisfied.
Anything?
I'm sorry, good afternoon, or good evening. So I'm just reviewing the packet, and I am looking at the chief of police letter, and it does say the application is for marijuana dispensary, and it should not be a marijuana dispensary, it's a medical marijuana provisioning center, so I just wanted to clarify that in the letter, because we don't allow those.
So that verbiage will be corrected.
This was a letter from the chief of police. I mean, we could, I guess we would contact him, and just so that we'll have a correct letter on file, and I'll defer to Madam Clerk if that's okay.
And if I could, the correct term, according to our zoning ordinance, is a provisioning center.
Okay, so we should have the correct verbiage. Yep. Councilwoman Banks?
Thank you. Earlier this evening, there was a gentleman that came up and spoke about this location. I'm not sure if I understand what was being said. Can someone please update this council, what's going on?
If I may, Madam President, I can just speak on behalf of what I know, that I believe there is some private matter that's taking place between the party that was here earlier and those that are now present requesting City Council's approval. I do have a copy of the complaint based on just looking at it, because I just received it also. I know it's a private agreement. I'm not sure the substance of it. And a special land use was granted for that location. I know the special land use runs with the land. Other than that, I can't really speak on the substance of it, because I myself just received it also. So that's what I can tell you right now, that it has something to do with the parties that were involved at the beginning, as the gentleman stated earlier, and it is a private issue between those parties.
So if you, I guess, do you need do you need time to review this? Or if this was taken, I believe he said it's going to circuit court, would this hold everything up?
Again, because I don't know the substance of the lawsuit, I just know that based on the information that I knew after Council President's meeting, that they were in compliance with what they were supposed to have done when they initially applied for the special land use. I can't speak on what's in the lawsuit because it's a private lawsuit. I know from the city's standpoint right now that they have done everything they were supposed to do. As far as the substance between these parties and how it would affect what we would decide this evening, I can't speak on that. I can look at it, just if the council would feel comfortable with that, but I can say that based on what I know, that if there wasn't a dispute and we didn't know about this, they have done everything they're supposed to. So I will leave it to council's discretion if they would like me to look at it and see where it places the city. But at this point, the information that I have is that everything was done and is in compliance as far as the applicants who applied for the special land use for this location.
Do you think, excuse me, do you think it's important before this honorable body considers this request that we get a corrected letter from the chief of police?
Well, as Planner Crowe stated, our ordinance doesn't allow the dispensaries because that comes under the recreational. So I don't think that the corrective letter would make a difference because we don't allow that anyways. It would be better just to get a corrective letter and have it on file. But as far as, holding it up until he gets a corrected letter, I don't suggest that because we don't allow the dispensaries. And we would have the letter by tomorrow, and then we would have to come back several weeks later.
Okay, and then the last question I have, and this would probably be to the clerk, I'm not understanding the question from the treasurer's office.
The question from the treasurer's office is if the applicant owed the city any taxes.
But she makes reference to a TV? Does it say?
A what?
Oh, taxable value.
Oh, taxable value, okay, taxable value, it's a TV.
I'm like,
I
a
wasn't-
TV?
Well, it says TV. It should-
That's the initial.
It should read, it's a letter, it should say taxable value, not
Well,
TV.
we'll make sure we get council some acronyms, because it's
I didn't know that was an abbreviation, so. But anyways, is that property 2 parcels? She says there's 2 parcels in the tax system under that address.
The applicant owns an additional property. So when they look it up, they look at, to make sure that they do not owe anything to the city.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And Madam President, we do have the applicants here, if this honorable body had any questions for them specifically.
Yep. Or if they care to speak and let us know anything in particular that they want us to know about their business or anything.
Well,
Now's the time.
I'm Tarek Gayar, the owner of, part owner of H&T Holdings, the property owner, and also the owner of HTP with Paul Lutfi from Cloverleaf. That's the business part of it. So if you have any questions, I believe the matter that you heard earlier, it's like a civil matter, and it has nothing to do with the building and the approval of this property. Since day one, we abided with the city requirements. We got all the approvals from the city and the states, starting from removing the tanks from the ground and eliminating the gas stations, demolishing the gas station, converting it into the new building, put the building as the city required exactly. We did everything as the city required to do. We got approval, we got the certificate of occupancy. We got the state approval to open as a medical marijuana dispensary. This is the only step that we're facing as to open up the store. With tons of money spent and for sacrifice for the previous business, the gas station, to put this building together, and we did it as it was approved to the city ordinance exactly and the approval of the city. If you have any technical questions of the security, the police, the staffing, the operation, I believe my manager is here to answer any of the questions.
Okay, thank you. Council, do we have any other questions? Councilman Mandelbaum?
Thank you. I know it's a very tricky situation when there's lawsuits going on between parties and we have to approve, you know, I don't believe we're taking sides or anything else, but I don't know if we should also be involved in making decisions based on a pending lawsuit. I think that opens us up to a whole bunch of other problems. So I don't know if we should really put that into consideration. If there is a problem, the courts will hopefully figure that out sooner rather than later.
Smart.
But that's my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Anything else that you'd like for us to know? I'm looking at the planner, but I'm not the clerk. Nope, okay. Councilman Brightwell?
I'm gonna go back to the city attorney, and obviously, when we were having this back and forth, when it was flying through there, the biggest question for me is everything for the city of Southfield, all the boxes have been checked. It's legal. We are not putting ourselves in any liability or anything that would be detrimental to the city of Southfield. Everything else is just outside of what we are responsible for. Is that correct?
Yes, and that's correct, as we stated before. As far as the city and the requirements, when the application was presented to the city, everything that they were supposed to do to receive that special land use, to the best of my knowledge, everything has been done. And that's why they're here this evening. As far as the outside matter, yes, there is a matter pending that does not involve the city. It appears to me, just based on the little bit I've seen tonight, that it's between the business partners, possibly, because I do recall when these gentlemen first came to the city right before COVID to apply for the special land use. So I don't know the substance. I will say that the city is not a party to it. If there's something involved in it, I'm sure that they would contact us. The state is also involved. He had to go through the state. So if there's anything that is going to be corrected, the state will probably correct it, and then it trickles down to us. But right now, the applicants have done everything they were supposed to, from the zoning approval to then the last step was getting our license, the city of Southfield.
Madam Chair, I'm with respect to just move this on.
Can you speak into your mic, because I can't hear you?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm pretty much just looking at it from the city of Southfield standpoint. And given that all the boxes have been checked and that there's no detrimental item for the city of Southfield, I would vote to move this forward.
Okay. Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Brightwell, supported by Councilwoman Banks, to approve the Dreams Canna facility license as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
One opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the authorization to purchase the golf ball dispensing machine for Beechwoods and the driving range.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Parks and Recreation is seeking your authorization to purchase a golf ball dispensing machine for the Beechwoods golf range. Currently, those range balls are washed and separated and prepared for sale by hand. This machine would wash the balls and dispense them automatically. It does provide efficiency, it does provide a better customer service product, and it will save on staffing costs. We did work with the purchasing department going through the bid process, and we did receive a successful bid from Radin Servant of America through Georgia. We would be getting the machine with a 3-year warranty, and the machine will be delivered within 45 days of the order. Our total expenditure would not exceed $14,589.95, and we're asking for your approval.
Okay. Council, do we have any questions regarding this item? Seeing none, I'll take a motion.
Madam Chair. Go ahead.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that we authorize the purchase of golf ball dispensing machine for Beechwood Golf Course.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Brightwell, supported by Councilman Mandelbaum, to approve the authorization to purchase the golf ball dispensing machine for Beechwoods driving range. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Our next item is the receipt of bids on the annual concrete maintenance and spot repair program.
Good evening, council members. As you know, the city of Southfield goes out for contracts for numerous recurring services for materials and workmanship. I'm before you tonight for the annual concrete maintenance and spot repair program that went out to bid and opened on May 12th. The lowest bidder for these services was JB Construction, Inc. for $398,560 with the option for 2 additional one-year contracts. These are to be on-call services. It's also the basis for other contracts that the city uses on other projects currently not thought of or an emergency basis. We have used J&B contractors in the past and found them to be quite receptive and responsive, and therefore we make the recommendation that council approves this contract.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions? Councilman Mandelbaum?
It's not a question. I mentioned this to Mr. Zorn earlier. You know, there's so many requests for street repair and pothole filling, but now we're also seeing requests for speed humps. We can kill 2 birds with 1 stone and just put the speed humps over the potholes. And we don't really need the construction for the spot concrete.
We will always consider new and unique opportunities.
Thank you. Councilman Brightwell?
Mr. Rand, perhaps you might not have an answer for this, but just looking at the anomaly, did purchasing ever get an explanation why Great Lakes Contracting put something in for $75 million?
I have asked, and they apparently had a clerical error, but because they were so far beyond it, they decided that it wasn't worth correcting the clerical error. It was not actually 75,000, or they did not intend for 75,000. 75 million, I should say.
I thought it was just computer hiccup or something, because a number like that will...
Yeah, especially when you look at their bids for the next 2 years. They're more in line with 756,000 than 700 or 75 million.
Okay, it's no problem. It's just an anomaly that someone would send something out like that, trying to get a contract from a city.
It's happened before, but never to this far an extent.
Excuse me?
It's happened before, but never to that far an extent.
Right, definitely. Okay.
Okay.
Madam Chair? If you open, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the bid on the annual concrete maintenance and spot repair program, job number 2271 SFLD.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Brightwell, supported by Councilwoman Banks, for the approval of the receipt of bids for the annual concrete maintenance and spot repair program as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have our GIS services.
Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening.
So the city's Geographic Information Systems, or GIS, provides increasingly essential services to many city departments. We have a full-time GIS coordinator on staff that utilizes Axim Geospatial, formerly known as Geographic Information Systems, or GIS Inc., for on-demand expert GIS support. Axim develops custom applications for the city, provides system architecture design, and is used to troubleshoot technical issues utilizing their Platinum Business Partnership with ESRI, the city's GIS software provider. Axim plays a key role managing our Amazon EC2 cloud instance by installing software and keeping it updated, provides the antivirus protection, completes the backups, monitors all of our usage from out in the public. They repair any issues that come up on that cloud, and then they identify performance improvements. Relying on Axim's expertise enables the city to be on top of the latest GIS trends and to have access to a variety of their highly skilled GIS professionals. Based upon the services provided by GIS Inc. and now Axim over the last 12 years, it's the recommendation of the engineering department that the city enter into a new 3-year contract with Axim. The total cost of the 3-year contract is just under $82,000. The contract includes a 385-hour support block each year. So they just keep track of the hours that they support us, and that has worked out very well for us. Year 2 does not include any increase in their hourly rate, although it does include $390 for antivirus software and some setup in this new Amazon Cloud instance. That's going to be the second part of this item. The Amazon EC2 Cloud instance is a virtual computer in the cloud. This is the city's public-facing maps and apps gallery. It's also used in conjunction with Central Square, which is the Public Works asset management system, as well as the custom fire GIS application built for and used by the fire department in all of their fire engines, ambulances, and command vehicles. Our existing cloud instance that we have is scheduled to be decommissioned later this summer. So with Axum support, the city plans to migrate our public interfacing programs to this new cloud. This effort is expected to last 1 to 2 months, and it's recommended we start this process as soon as possible so we don't have any downtime for the public and for the fire GIS application. That agreement with Amazon is also a 3-year agreement. It was most cost advantageous for us to enter into this 3-year term and maximize the upfront cost. So that total that we're asking for authorization is just under $14,000. So total for the 3-year between the Amazon agreement and the Axum contract, this is $255,000 approximately, and the funding for this is provided in the 22-23 Engineering Department contractual professional budget, and then will be provided in subsequent years as council may approve. So we are looking for action on both entering into that contract with Axum and then entering into the agreement with Amazon so that we can purchase that cloud for the 3-year term.
Thank you. Councilman Mandelbaum?
Thank you. Is there any lag in getting the equipment that we need?
Because this is a virtual server that's in the cloud, there's not any physical components that we are going to be waiting to order. So it's really just checking the box, putting the payment through, and then we can start our migration.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman Banks?
Thank you. If we do not use the number of support hours that they provide per year, do the extra hours carry over to the following year?
They do not in this new contract. Typically we had 400 hours, and we were pretty close to using about 400 hours in our pre-COVID time when it was just more standard, operating services each year. So we cut it down a little bit because their hourly rates have gone up. We wanted to try and keep it around $80,000 for that, for the annual contract. And we don't think that's going to cause us to be short. But these rates, they give us the 1 hourly rate. It really covers, though, the full spectrum of their professional staff. So sometimes we're using a programmer that would, the programmer's time that we would be paying much more per hour for. So this is so that Axum has a consistent income from us, and we have the best service that we can get through their company.
Okay, so in the past, we've requested 400 hours, and how many hours are we requesting with this contract?
385 per year.
And if we go over, how much is it an hour?
We would not go over. So they do give us status updates each month, and there's certain items that we would use them for that maybe wouldn't be time sensitive. So if we've got a big project coming up and we seem like we're cutting short on our hours, we may delay starting that until the new fiscal year. And that's just a way for us to control. So some of the work is planned work, and then some amounts of it are more emergency-based.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, council?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to move the approval of the GIS services as presented.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Mandelbaum, supported by Councilwoman Banks, for the approval of the GIS services as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have the State of Michigan's assistance regarding Highland Park's outstanding water and sewer debt.
Yeah, I will also be talking to you about this evening. So you've probably seen on the news, there has been a lot of coverage recently about Highland Park, really as the Great Lakes Water Authority, where we get our water and sewer from, as they've been publishing their rates. So Highland Park started to become delinquent on paying their own sewer bills in 2012 for not really any good identified reason on the sewer side. Also in 2012, in a separate type of situation, the state requested that then the Detroit Water and Sewerage Department provide some emergency water supply for Highland Park for 3 or 4 days, because Highland Park operated their own water treatment facility and it needed some emergency maintenance, and DWSD agreed to do that for 3 or 4 days. Well, that was in November of 2012, and that water treatment plant has never completed the repairs. And because it was supposed to be such a short-term item to supply that water, there were not cost agreements all put in place between DWSD and the city of Highland Park. So since 2012, Highland Park has mostly paid some portion of their water and sewerage bills over the last 10 years, but then in April 2021, a lawsuit was filed, and I'm not really sure who filed it first, whether it was the city of Highland Park or the Great Lakes Water Authority, but they entered into some litigation and stopped making any water or sewer payments. So their debt, which had already been accumulating over 9 years, of course, continued to grow, especially because there was zero payment happening. And on the water and sewer side, or on the water supply side in particular, the state of Michigan required DWSD to provide that service. And when the bills weren't being paid and later GLEWA had been formed, GLEWA had asked the state about not supplying them water anymore, and the state said that we could not do that, which it's, it makes sense, because it is not really necessarily the fault of all the residents that live in that community that that city is not paying all of their bills. So, people still have water in their homes, they still have sewage that flows out and gets treated as it's supposed to, but this is turning into a bigger political problem now, because this bad debt from Highland Park is being distributed to all of the communities through our rates. So a portion of our rates and the other approximately 125 communities that are served by Great Lakes Water Authority, are part of their rates are to cover this bad debt from Highland Park. Now, the good news is, just earlier this month, with the ongoing litigation, the judge did offer or issued an opinion and an order, and ordered Highland Park to pay GLEWA 65% of their receivables on the water sewer side for all the months that they didn't pay anything, and then continue paying 65% moving forward until the court orders otherwise. So that is recent enough that, as far as I know, those payments, nothing has been made yet. So we still want to keep the pressure on the state. We feel like the state of Michigan should be involved, and it does not feel fair to everyone else to be paying for Highland Park's water and sewer, especially to this scope. So every community has some small percent, typically, of water and sewer bills that aren't paid, that the rest of customers do pay, while the city tries to work that out, but nothing ever to this level where it's one whole community that is not paying a large portion of their bill. So what we are recommending is that your honorable body adopt the attached resolution, which requests intercession by the state officials in the matter of the Highland Park water and sewer debt assigned to Great Lakes Water Authority wholesale water and sewer customers. This will be forwarded to Governor Whitmer and our local and state elected representatives.
Council? Councilman Brightwell?
Lee, I clearly understand the humanitarian aspect of this, and this is probably for Mr. Zorn too. Also, let's say the state will eventually make us whole for that $2 million. Probably it will dribble in, not all at once. But how would we apply that $2 million if it start coming back to us? Theoretically.
If the state were to make them whole with the 54 million, that 2 million would actually be built back into our system and help keep our rates lower. And we're proposing a 3% increase in our water rates this year with another $2 million that would just roll into our system, and we'd be able to keep our rates flatter.
Okay, so we propose to roll it back in to maintain, okay. All right, thanks.
Councilman Frazier?
Yes, it's been all over the news about this problem. And Highland Park says they think they've paid their share of the bill, and they don't have any extra money. Now, do we know, it says $2 million, do we know how much of that bill that Highland Park owes is really ours?
Well, that's what the $2 million that's mentioned in the council item has been attributed to Southfield through our water side and our sewer side. And so that $2 million, this is it for us right now. Now, because of the recent order, and there's been some communication, this is a pretty fluid situation right now. There's been some communication then from the governor's office to GLEWA, and then GLEWA back to the governor. The GLEWA did say in their letter to the governor that they, now that the judge has made this order, that they would consider, reconsider their rate schedule to potentially remove some of that Highland Park bad debt. But as you can see, paying, even if they come up with 65% of their bills, they're still not making GLEWA whole for what GLEWA believes they owe. So what they ultimately owe will probably be decided in the courts. I think, there's some hope, excuse me, some hope that they would just come to the table and try and resolve it without continuing to fight it through the courts. And with the judge's first opinion, it seemed like it was more favorable to GLEWA. So maybe that's a possibility. I think it would be resolved a lot faster if it didn't have to go through the whole court system. But it would also be really nice if the state of Michigan stepped forward and paid that bad debt to GLEWA. And then we want the state to come in to help Highland Park. It's like, what's going on here? There was a period of 4 years that they did not even bill their residents. And, and there was a problem with the billing system, and billing problems can happen, and, it's an emergency, and you have to act fast and get it corrected, but how does that go on for 4 years? And and maybe they're getting their stuff together more recently, but no one is really going to get involved with how Highland Park is billing its residents, or if they're collecting enough money to pay their utility services to GLEWA, unless the state is getting involved.
No, it sounds sort of like a class action lawsuit. Do you know if the amount that the judge is telling them to pay includes penalty, or is it just the cost of the water?
Right, I'm not aware if they're are penalties associated with that. I mean, there are certain costs, I think, that will be gone and lost forever. These attorneys don't work for free. And so all of us as part of GLEWA are paying for these, attorneys to fight this out in court. And same with Highland Park. They are a community that has a lot of financial difficulties as a city, and they are also paying a team of attorneys to fight this in court. So my hope is that it can get resolved as soon as possible, and we believe that having the state intervene will help make that a speedier process.
Okay, sounds like a problem that'll never get resolved, but, okay.
Okay.
That's my question.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, Madam President, I just want to kind of piggyback on what Mr. Frazier said. Some of us may remember, Detroit went years without cutting people's water off. The bills were high until Mayor Duggan came in and said, no more of this. And in fact, my mother worked for the water department, so she would say, like, we have people that haven't paid a bill in 7-8 years of time, so it's nothing new, but I'd like the approach we're taking here so that we can hopefully recuperate some of our funds and everything.
Right.
So thank you for bringing this to before us today. I'm definitely in favor of trying to get some of those dollars back.
Right.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Can I just add that we are the largest community in this consortium, rightly?
Sagwa.
Yeah, and it's important, us being the largest community, to set the tone, and other communities probably will follow suit with what we're doing or what has been proposed to do tonight.
Thank you. Okay, Council?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that we request the State of Michigan assistance regarding Highland Park outstanding water and sewer debt as presented.
Support. You got it.
It's been moved by Councilman Brightwell, supported by Councilwoman Banks, for us to approve the attached resolution as presented here tonight for the State of Michigan's assistance regarding the Highland Park outstanding water and sewer debt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee.
Thank you. Next, we have the SNRI Eligible Activity Reimbursement Agreement assignment to Habitat for Humanity of Oakland County.
Madam President, Sam Seimer from AKT Peerless will be speaking to this item.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me again. Samantha Seimer, Vice President of Economic Development Services with AKT Peerless. Before you for your consideration this evening is a recommended resolution supporting the assignment of the reimbursement tax increment from SNRI to Habitat for Humanity. Over the past 6 years, Southfield NRI has been rehabilitating properties and selling residential homes and commercial buildings at market rate as owner-occupied. A portion of these homes, as identified in the parcel IDs in your packet, were sold to Habitat for Humanity to spearhead these revitalization efforts. 3 separate brownfield redevelopment plans and reimbursement agreements for SNRI were executed on behalf of these projects at meetings dated December 4th, 2017, October 15th, 2018, and February 10th, 2020. As taxes are collected from these identified properties, the developer would then receive reimbursement as stated in the original reimbursement agreements. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Again, this is a request for assignment of the reimbursement agreement for brownfield eligible activities from SNRI to Habitat for Humanity of Oakland County.
Thank you. Council? Okay, seeing no questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to move the approval of the SNRI Eligible Activity Reimbursement Agreement assignment to Habitat for Humanity of Oakland County.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Mandelbaum, supported by Councilman Cruz, for the approval of the reimbursement agreement as presented here tonight to Habitat for Humanities of Oakland County. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the authorization to submit a grant to the MEDC RAP program for the civic lawn improvement design.
Thank you, Madam President. This evening, we're asking that council adopt a resolution supporting the city's application to the Michigan Economic Development Corporation for the revitalization and placemaking grant. With us this evening is Chris Reger from OHM, Terry Fields from our Parks and Rec Department, as well as Terry Crow, City Planner. This is Mary Beal, our librarian, is in a conference this week. This has been one of the most collaborative efforts that I've been fortunate enough to work with the city.
Mary is here too.
Oh, Mary is here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The EI conference.
She
came right
left
to
the conference just to be
last
here.
week.
Lucky you.
We're happy to answer any questions. This would authorize us and would be the resolution that's accompanying the submittal of the application.
Okay, thank you. This was presented to us at our study program, too, so
Yes.
we're familiar with this. Council? Councilman Mandelbaum?
While I think this is a very good plan, and I do plan to vote for it, I just want to reiterate, I don't want the city to bite off more than it can chew. You know, looking at how much we need in our comprehensive need assessment, I just don't want the city to continue to, I want to make sure that we're always able to provide the necessities for what we already have, rather than take more things on and not be able to keep up the maintenance. I know one of the things that we've talked about for a long time was a dog park, and one of the reasons that we haven't moved forward yet was we said, well, we need to figure out how we're going to maintain it. So if we have those conversations about a dog park, I can only imagine how much more we're having about a, $8 million or potential an $8 million project. So I just want to make sure that, I wanted to reiterate that and make sure that we all know that we need to make sure that we properly fund our budgets for maintenance as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Council?
Madam President, I'd like to move that we approve the authorization to submit the grant to MEDC/RAP, which is what again? Tell me, what's the RAP?
Revitalization and placemaking.
There we go, Revitalization and Placement Program for the Civic Law Improvement Design.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Cruz, supported by Councilman Brightwell, for the approval of the authorization to submit the grant to the MEDC RAP RAP program for civic lawn improvement design. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Move forward. Next, we have the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation Michigan Chapter request for use of the Donald Fracassi Municipal Campus front lawn and walkways.
Yeah, I'm happy to. We have a request from the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of Michigan to use the front walkway as well as the city center. Thank you, Terry.
Sure. The city, Parks and Recreation, has come before you in the past with Sarah Armeniak from the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. They have done this walk for 4 years. Their request is to set up on Friday evening. They bring some information to the facility, but the actual walk is Saturday morning. Registration is at 10 o'clock, and the walk starts at 11:30. They do ask for our support in the stage, and they do ask for police support as well. Sarah works with both the police department and our Parks and Recreation Department in providing information and timeframes and maps and all the information that we need to make sure that that event happens safely. They do put up some pop-up tents for the event. I know the mayor they're very generous, and they allow us to use those pop-up tents for the Kimmy Horn Jazz Fest. So there's a continued partnership with the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, but we felt as though we wanted to come before council again. The event is June 11th. Again, they come in Friday in the evening and set up, and then they're on campus at 7 a.m. And we also work with Justin Beck with emergency management as well, just so that we have a good feel for the parking. They've had anywhere from 100 to 200 folks come. They did do the event virtually the last 2 years because of the pandemic, so this year they will be in person.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions? Councilman Frazier?
I don't have a real question on this, but this is a part of the question I'm going to ask. We just approved the authorization to spend a big number of dollars on our front lawn. And our front lawn is very popular for every organization to either start or hold their event. In the period of time that we're doing the lawn work, have we considered alternate places for these organizations to hold their event, so it still shows that the city center is a place to come to, but they can't do it on their front lawn?
Right. Well, early in these planning stages, your Parks and Recreation Department is looking at alternate locations for the events that we provide and that we serve. So we haven't yet had conversations with any of our partners. We have had some initial conversations with how many months out of the year we will miss the front lawn, but we're probably looking at least a season of spring, summer events, and really we have the winter events that we do as well. We do have some alternate location ideas, but there will be some real challenges for some of our larger events. We'll certainly be able to make accommodation for some of our concerts. We can do some of the walks perhaps in some alternate locations. We don't provide any special permits, for instance, for Inglenook Park. That's our most heavily used park, and anytime we use a permit, we're displacing our residents from the usage of that park. But I think we can make, we have some extenuating circumstances should we be able to go forward with a front lawn project. So we'll be, to your point and to your question, we will take into consideration some other alternatives for some locations. There may be some events that won't be able to happen, including some of ours, but we'll do our best to provide that space. Where it gets a little bit tricky is parking. Campus here has wonderful parking, so using that front lawn space is great. We could use some other open space on campus, but we do have some of the same challenges, and that's the rain. So it may rain the night before, and we have something planned for maybe to the back part of the volleyball courts where we have open field. It still presents a challenge. So having given the green light to go forward with the grant, and if we are fortunate enough to secure that, we will definitely be looking at all kinds of opportunities and all kinds of changes that we'll probably need to make because of that project.
Okay.
Councilman Brightwell?
And obviously, this is a wonderful project, and it's been going on for years. This is probably for Mr. Zorn, but I know we do things, and looking at it from a finance standpoint, there's a cost to everything. I know we don't do any cost accounting, and So this is just one of those things that down the road, we should really start doing some rudimentary cost accounting so we can get an idea, a generic idea that, you know, certain things, you know, when we putting up, we have people there, and the police are showing up, and there's some cost there. So this is just my circular that historically, when we said there's no fiscal impact, I want the city to start looking at cost accounting a little bit more.
If I can add, just today in discussions about a possible event, 1,000 people with police and fire, conversations, both my police chief and fire chief, what would that run, 4-hour block? And we do ask organizations to pay for that. We look at the number of heads that are coming, try to make that work. This walk, 100, 120 people, it's a sizable, manageable walk. It moves quickly. It's not any event. We staff for that. And if I'm correct, the City Center is a sponsor of that. And even when the Anti-Defamation League had their walk, and that walk, I think last September, had roughly 60 people. There was a public safety charge there, and we even made an evaluation looking at who the audience was. If you'll recall, that was right after we had an attack on a synagogue, and I think it was in Pennsylvania, that one of these crazy mass shootings, you know, that was all part of the consideration, and who the audience, what the event is. And I just want to go back to Mr. Frazier's comment, too. You know, we used to do Eat to the Beat on Central Park Boulevard, and I'll remind you, although we've never done this, when we did the 2 roundabouts, part of it was so that we could program that street as an extension of the front yard. You know, that's a future conversation, and will come with challenges we haven't even thought of yet. We did do that for the summer fund run, and I think we learned quite a bit. And that was an event that we're no longer sponsoring, simply because of the cost and the number of participations. It didn't make sense. And this summer, I think there are 6 concerts on the front lawn that are all free.
Just on Friday nights, right?
And we coordinate and we underwrite all that public safety overtime cost. And I know the department does have cost accounting on those events.
On all of our events, yeah.
Okay. No, it's just from a standpoint of just being aware of what's coming out of our pocket. And in theory, it could be a publicity point too. Southfield generate X amount of dollars by way of in-kind contribution we make to. I know we have some organizations here, we allow them to meet here and do this and do that. So it doesn't, it's a good PR thing, but then from financial management, it doesn't hurt to know what things are costing you, although you're not charging anybody for it. We just know. So cost accounting is a big thing within any organization, and it is a financial tool to keep track. Maybe we giving away too much. Who knows? You know. So, but that's just a FYI. I'll bring it up periodically whenever.
If I may, Madam President, to the council, recent discussion has been about adopting an annual calendar of what events we would sponsor. Candidly, the amount of staff time involved in vetting some of these, God bless my city attorney, she recently had some large amounts of times, and we had, myself, Mr. McRena, Ms. Fields, in an hour-and-a-half meeting, and that all adds up. And after Kimmy Horn concert, Terry is approached by a woman who wants to do the same thing in a month. And that's the other thing, is we spend 6 months to a year planning these things.
Right.
And by having a programming calendar schedule, I think we could get a better control. And candidly, as an organization, we need to have a dialogue about how these groups come to us, what we do, and what we expect. City attorney and I have been looking at a facilities policy where we prescribe and define what activities
can happen in certain buildings. I think City of Farmington Hills, I haven't even, Dawn gave me one, 27 pages, and it was an intense read. But every building of what can be used, or what events can happen. So we're looking at that, and we think, in fairness to groups that are looking, part of this front yard, front lawn, or improvement plan is about that placemaking. What happens, and we want these events of vibrancy to happen, but we also have to know what our costs are and what the groups need to bring to the table to make that happen.
If I could, through the chair, and I've been here 12 years, I think this is one of the better run, very organized. They're very proactive. They carry through with what they say they're going to do. They previously met in Royal Oak. They relocated to Southfield because of all the improvements that we've been doing, the ample parking, the green space. And pre-COVID, they brought between 800 and 1,200 people here. Not all of them walk, but many of them are patronizing our local businesses and are coming back for all the good things that they see here. So this is one of the better organizations that the City Center is supporting. I'm supporting in cooperation with Parks and Rec. And I think bringing 1,200 people on a Saturday morning that otherwise wouldn't be here is good business for the city as well.
And if I may, how are we getting the word out to the residents and businesses, the town center, that these events are happening? Because the streets, of course, they have the walk paths and that. Those will be blocked off, so if you're used to driving down, straight down Evergreen, you now may have to pause at the roundabout to let people cross or something like that. But there should be an awareness to the public that these things are happening, what days and times. And I know that we do it, I just don't know how we get that information out and how early and how often it's reached, and even with the businesses, so they can amp up because they know that they'll probably have more business on those particular days.
We do, there is an announcement on the city's website, but with these comments, I'm going to ask for a media announcement or a press release to go out regarding the traffic challenges. And I'll ask that we hit our neighborhood associations. We haven't built a robust enough business listing, but I will have Ms. Freeman, that press statement go out to, I think Ms. Freeman's group has the largest database of Southfield businesses. We'll do a blast there too.
Okay.
That's
Could we do like PSAs on our local TV stations?
Yes, yeah.
Because everybody doesn't go to the website, they have
Right.
no reason,
Yep.
but they do listen to the news.
Yes.
Okay. Councilman Cruz?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to kind of respond to Terry's comment there. I totally understand what you're saying, but I think that we probably need to just be consistent with how we treat everybody. I know you saying that they run a good operation, but, they could just as easily come back and say, well, you let this group do this and so on and so forth. So, I don't know if we need to have some guidelines, or something like that, that helps us, that backs us up. You know what I'm saying? Instead of, just kind of picking and choosing, if you will. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I mean, you know the good ones and the bad ones. So we want to make sure that everybody's coming is
Sure.
going to be on the right page.
I'm
we
glad
want
you said
groups
that.
to have good events too.
Yeah.
Because an event that fails, we both fail, yes.
And part of that vetting that we do in the very beginning with groups that approach us is to do just what you talked about. We have a template, and we talk about parking, we talk about their volunteers, we talk about how they market the event, all their safety. So some of what we use in Parks and Recreation, we certainly share with any groups that are coming to us, and that's the basis for a lot of our vetting and the questions and it helps them tweak their game, helps them make some decisions as well. We're all about events happening successfully, but whenever we partner and whenever anything happens on that front lawn, it's us, right? They can put any sign up there you want, but it's the city of Southfield. So we definitely share and use that framework going forward with groups.
True indeed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So you're looking for us to approve?
Can I make a motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
All right. I'd like to move that the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation Michigan chapter be approved for their request to use Donald F. Fracassi Municipal Campus front lawn and walkways for their event.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Cruz, supported by Councilman Mandelbaum for the approval of the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation Michigan chapter request as presented here tonight. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so
very
much.
Council, we're under the council portion. We'll start with you, Councilman Hoskins.
Thank you, Madam Chair, but I have nothing to add this evening.
Thank you. Councilman Brightwell?
Yes, I have a couple items here. With respect to veterans, there will be a Veteran Resource Fair May 26th in Oxford, Michigan, at the American Legion Post number 108. That will be from 9 o'clock a.m. to noon. The veterans, they will be a free food box given away. The Veterans Affairs Office for Oakland County will be there. They will be able to print out DD 214s for the veterans. Veterans will be able to get cosmetology work, which is primarily get haircuts and hairstyling. And also, they will have dental work there for the veterans. That is being sponsored by the Oakland County Health Network. It's May 26, 9 a.m. to noon in Oxford, Michigan, at VFW Post 108 as 130 East Drahner Road, D-R-A-H-N-E-R. One other thing, this is from the VA itself. The VA is concerned that a lot of veterans and their families are being subject to scams and fraud with respect to individuals are receiving calls indicating that they can arrange for veterans to get their disability benefits and also their pensions for a small fee. And the VA wants you to know that the VA does not charge a fee, or the U.S. government will not charge a fee for you to service your veterans benefits and or your military pension or veterans pension. And if you do feel that you have been contacted, there's a lot of stuff here, but this is fraud. And if you do feel that you're being bullied in or muscled into giving out your personal data, just feel free to call the VA Office of the Inspector General or 1-800-488-8244. And as always, a lot of times veterans may not hear this message direct, but if you know a veteran, you have a relative who's a veteran, please pass this information on to them. And if you wish, they can always reach me here at City Hall, and I can contact them and give them direct information. But feel free to, anyone, if you have a question about any items that I might have brought up, just feel free to contact me here at City Hall by way of the clerk's office. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Mandelbaum?
I have nothing this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Cruz?
Yes. Let's see here. I just have one brief detail I want to kind of make on my behalf as it relates to a vote I took here on council on May 2nd. At that meeting, during the resolution that council approved, the We Remember display, I abstained from the vote. That was an incorrect action on my part. My intent was to vote no. And since the record reflects abstain, I can't change it at this time or at any time. but our charter speaks to a member of council may only abstain from voting on a question in which he or she has any financial interest other than the common public interest. This was not the case. I did not have any kind of connection to this or whatsoever. So just for full transparency and to kind of do my best to correct the record, I wanted to put my statement on the permanent record now, and I ask that the clerk will assist me in doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Banks?
Thank you. We'd just like to wish everyone a happy Memorial Day weekend. Please be safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Frazier?
Councilwoman Banks just took my message.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I think we all wish everybody happy Memorial Day.
But I would like to say that I hope everyone does have fun, but also remember why Memorial Day is Memorial Day.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
And remember to stay safe. COVID numbers are going up, so if you're in an enclosed setting, be mindful of that, and you may want to wear your mask if it's a large number, a large group. Thank you, everyone. The mayor's not here tonight. Administration?
Yes, Madam President, I had put a letter in the packet looking to try to get a date for a special meeting, single topic, just to discuss our collective bargaining strategies. It would be closed door, but also to go through the comprehensive wage study that has been completed. We are in the process of running individual copies for each council member with a personalized watermark of that document, and I'm expecting those to be ready possibly tomorrow, and they'll be delivered to council members.
Delivered to our homes?
To their homes is what we were thinking. We'll put a call out before that happens. So if we could have, I know one of the dates discussed was Monday, June 6th, but I know that is a holiday that I was not aware of.
Okay.
That's my ignorance.
Do we have any other alternative days?
I'm open to the pleasures of this body.
I have a suggestion.
Yes, Councilwoman Banks.
Okay, we have 3 meetings scheduled in June.
3 meetings in June.
And on June 13th, we will be meeting at 5:30 to address our budget. Is there a way, following the budget, this can be the sole item on that agenda? And then we have 2 other meetings afterwards where we can address what was ever going to be on the June agenda.
We would, Councilwoman Banks, we would have to double back with planning to see if any public hearings have already been scheduled, so I would need to talk to them, because we don't want to omit them if we've already planned during their planning process that was a public hearing date for the 13th meeting. So that will be something we'd have to talk to Planner Crowe about.
And there's always 1 or 2 things that can't wait, but the planning and public hearings was my first thought. And I'm sorry, I don't know what's on that 13th agenda for public hearings just yet.
Well,
So that could be a date if there are no public hearings scheduled, and as long as I can have a caveat, if I've got 1 or 2 absolute must happen for some type of deadline. But I'd be surprised if there isn't a public hearing, and just kind of how their cycle works. Apologize, I didn't look at that.
Okay, is there a deadline or a cutoff, or how, do we have to do this quickly, or? Does it have to be done in the month of June? Is that what you're asking?
If, I'm sorry, what were the other June dates? I would like it to happen in June, just to keep this moving. It's,
Currently, the June dates that we have for council meeting is going to be Monday, June 13th, which will have the two meetings, the special meeting at 5:30 for the public hearing to approve the budget. And then we have another meeting, which is on Tuesday, June 21st, due to the observance of Juneteenth. And then we have another meeting, which will be Monday, June 27th.
21st sound good to me.
On Juneteenth?
No, Juneteenth, the 20th.
But, okay.
Did you say you didn't know?
Hmm?
You didn't know that? The 21st?
The 21st is a
is the day
Tuesday.
after.
The
Right.
city will be observing and be closed that Monday for Juneteenth.
The Monday.
But
I
wouldn't we
said
run,
Tuesday.
couldn't we run into the same issue with the public hearing?
Well, if we ran into the same issue, now we have time, the notifications haven't been sent.
Okay,
So we could potentially push the public hearings back to June 27th.
okay, okay.
So this is all contingent. If you guys do decide that June 21st is the meeting, you guys can pass a resolution for that. If it doesn't work, we come back and say, and we're not even passing a resolution, excuse me, we're just saying that that agenda is solely dedicated to the closed session.
I think that's good. That would give us time to review the materials if we're getting it this week.
Yeah, that's true.
We had 300-plus pages. That'll give us time to look at it. There's
So
no
we'll-
holidays or anything.
Not
on the
unless we look at the
21st.
27th, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know how far out he goes.
Yeah, let's tentatively look at the 21st. Fred, does that
Yes.
work?
Yep.
If anything changes, we'll let you know. We could be lucky like we were tonight and nobody talked for public hearings. So it was just it was a few minutes. So we'll look into it and then go from there.
Okay. Is there a general consensus, council, for the 21st? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
we'll work in that direction, Madam President.
Yes.
And if I may, the last two meetings, PFAS have come up. We are really not aware of any PFAS situations in Southfield. I've had some discussions about possible locations. We're going to see what we can find out. The State of Michigan Eagle has 2 staff people assigned, but in the testing we've done on water in that, keep in mind, we don't test those private wells. We are working in that direction, and we'll do some random sampling for PFAS, but we have no evidence to believe that that's a situation here in Southfield. The short list, I'll say it could be the National Guard building after speaking with the fire department. I've asked the fire department, they have no reasons to suspect that, but we've had 2 meetings now where that's come up. And if someone's aware of something or a location, I guess the administration would like to know. Our water, for the majority of our residents, and we are nearing completion of the San Reno well, and there was never a problem there. We know we have roughly, by our best estimates, 220 people who are still on wells. We've had no indication that there's a problem there. I become concerned when this becomes a topic in this body, and not tonight, but the last meeting it was, and we've yet to, this administration has yet to respond. I'm telling you, we have no concrete evidence to suspect or think. I feel like I'm grasping. And if someone's aware of something, I'd like them to share that. The vast majority of our residents are on a potable, safe water system provided by the Great Lakes Water Authority and SACWA. Routine testing, there's no reason. The well that we just connected, San Reno, the water was always safe. The system, the well itself was failing. Of the other 220, we're going to do some random sampling of to see what we can find out. So Again, I'm just responding to a question that came up, not tonight, but the last two council meetings from one of our residents during communications. The other item I just wanted to touch on, I do a monthly meeting with our tech department on different tech issues. Cybersecurity comes up. Mr. Hinojosa and I are developing an agenda, and I will be asking Nicole Dixon in my office to schedule a one-on-one phone call or Zoom call with each of you to share some of the information we have on recent tests of our cybersecurity systems here and some additional recommendations we'll be making. Because of the sensitivity of the nature, it's not something that I care to discuss publicly, so we'll engage each of you individually. Madam President and I had this discussion earlier this afternoon. That's all I have this evening. Happy Memorial Day. Just a personal note, I'll be out of the office Thursday and Friday. I will be available by phone. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Attorney?
Yes, good evening, Council. What I have before you is an amendment to the fire prevention ordinance. Back in 2006, we adopted the 2006 International Fire Code. And that's been almost 17 years ago. And at that time, there were some changes with the building department, how they switched to the 2003, back then, Michigan Building Code. And so the fire department at that time believed that it was appropriate that they transition to a more up-to-date code as well, which was the International Fire Code. Well, what you have before you is now a proposed amendment to make sure that we update to the 2015 fire code. No one is here from fire, but it's pretty straightforward. The changes is now we need to be on the 2015 International Fire Code. In your copy, you'll see that the changes are underlined in bold, which basically just shows we're using the 2015 International Fire Code. And that is pretty much it. So I am bringing it here for approval and introduction.
Okay. Council?
You want me a motion?
Councilwoman Banks?
I move that the ordinance amendment to Chapter 116 Fire Prevention Regulations be introduced.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilwoman Banks, supported by Councilman Mandelbaum for the approval of the ordinance amendment for Chapter 116 Fire Prevention Regulations. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And now we can do the introduction.
Yes, please.
I move that we introduce ordinance number 1753, an ordinance amendment for Chapter 116 Fire Prevention Regulations.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilwoman Banks, supported by Councilman Mandelbaum. I heard you both, so I was trying to say eeny, meeny, miny, moe. Mandelbaum to introduce ordinance number 1753. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Good evening. Just for public consumption, C&G Publishing was cyber attacked, so there will be no Southfield Sun this upcoming Thursday and possibly beyond. So for full transparency, for the next couple of weeks for our public notices, the City of Southfield will be using Oakland Legal News and the Oakland Press because we do not have an option in using C&G Publishing. So I'll keep you guys updated if individuals come out and say we didn't get the Sun, it's because they're not doing a publication at all this week, and we still had items that needed to be set forth for publication. Thank you.
Thank you. No treasurer, planning, assessor, engineering. Nothing to schedule. Council, I meant to mention under our council portion that I have reached out to our Human Resources Department and spoken with James Meadows. As you know, we have 3 direct reports that we review or supposed to review on an annual basis. Due to COVID and various other reasons, we did not have our review last year. Well, we will be having one this year, and you should be receiving a packet by Friday, either hand-delivered or mailed to your home, with our 3 direct reports. So please review those, let me know if you have any questions, and then we're going to fill out the surveys, or whatever we want to call them, the reviews, and return them as soon as possible. Okay? Anybody have any questions?
Are we meeting with them beforehand, or are we just doing them
We're going to do
based
the
on-
reviews first, and then we're going to meet with each one of our direct reports.
Okay,
Because they have to have an opportunity
sure.
to review it as well.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
It's a year late, but
It's gonna get done.
yep. If there's no other business, I now declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Good night.